Hello and a very warm welcome to our today's event, the role of culture and female leadership amid a global pandemic. We are very happy to have 4 panelists with us, strong women, which will share amazing input with us. We have Rachel, our friend and experienced moderator. Thanks, Rachel. But before we start, I would like to give the word to one of our panelists before she will give her speech, Ms. Asma Al-Bakr, who is responsible for cultural affairs at the Embassy of the State of Qatar. Asma, the word is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for seeing. It's wonderful to see you, all of you. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And I have deep gratitude for all the speakers and the participants.
Thank you, Asma. Then I will shortly introduce Rachel, our moderator. Rachel Clark is Artistic Director of the Storytelling Arena, which promotes dialogue between people of all backgrounds on contemporary issues, currently through the nationwide Storyfield project. And without talking too much, because I'm a man anyways, and I'm looking forward to what the women have to say, as I'm always doing it. Even my own mother is joining us today. She's also a great woman. Shoutouts to my mom. I will give the word to Rachel, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My mother is also here today, tuned in from Scotland, in from lockdown. So also welcome to her. She's also a wonderful woman. We have 4 wonderful keynote speakers for you today, as Jeremiah has already said, but this is a participatory event. So we will have 4 speeches, and then after around 30 minutes, there'll be a question and answer session with questions from the audience to our panel guests. So please feel free to write your questions into the chat. The chat can be found on the bottom. If you put your mouse around the bottom of the screen, there's a chat. If you click on it once, there'll be a pop-up screen and you can just type in from your computer, you can type in your question. Put your name and if your institution, if you would like to, and then also if you would like to put your question in person to the panelists, you just put next to it, I will ask. And we will take a note of your questions. And after the 4 keynote speakers have spoken, then that will be the question and answer session. And the final 30 minutes, there will be an open discussion where you can also give statements and share some of your experiences on our theme of today, which is, of course, the role of culture and female leadership amid a global pandemic. And I would like to open the floor for Saushan Chepli. She is the Berlin State Secretary for Civic Engagement and International Affairs and the plenipotentiary for Berlin to the federal government, which means that she represents the Berlin government on a national level. And we are very much looking forward to her speech, and thank you very much. And the floor is yours, Saushan Chepli.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. Unfortunately, after my, it's not really a speech, I'm like given a short statement, some hints about the role of culture, female leadership, and especially what is my topic as state secretary, civic engagement in this pandemic times. So unfortunately, I have to leave after my statement, short statement. I'm very sorry, there's something that came up I cannot ignore. So the pandemic has had an impact on all, on culture, on civic engagement, and on female leadership. The cultural sector, of course, has been hit like dramatically, I'd say. Artists lost their jobs, cultural businesses run bankrupt, the cultural landscape in general is affected. Germany has given out tens of millions of euros to cultural workers hit by Corona. For example, the budget committee of the German Bundestag, I'm not talking about the Berlin measures, Berlin state measures, but the Bundestag, the federal, has approved additional funding for an increase in continuation of the Rescue and Future program Neustart Kultur. Greater emphasis, and this is very, very important, has been put on support for individual artists, Germany's aid packages, I would say, for our cultural landscape last year are unparalleled if you compare it to other countries worldwide. Of course, it's still not enough. Still too many are left by themselves, too many artists also in my like surrounding, and we need to do a lot more. But if you compare, as I said, compare the situation here with other countries, we can clearly say there's been a great effort to financially support culture and to prevent it from breaking down, because culture has an impact or is so interlinked to coexistence and to democracy and to civic engagement. And I'll say some words about that later. So on the one hand, we have the state supporting culture, and on the other hand, we have thousands of people who, without being paid, help to keep culture alive. A great deal of cultural activities and events are managed and dedicated by volunteers. That is like the whole theme about civic engagement. Think of the many choirs that are organized and supported by people who are not paid for the work. Think of the cultural support associations, such as the Friends Associations of museum, theaters, or orchestras, that are great expressions of civic engagement. And without that, culture could not live as it lives today. Another example is reading mentors for children or mentoring projects in general. So it also has a social impact. But culture is based not only on its responsibilities for theaters, museums, or libraries, as important and as valuable these institutions, of course, are for our society. Culture is also about the way we interact with each other in our society. Whether we're indifferent or empathetic, selfish or with a sense of solidarity, self-focused or aiming for the participation of all, whatever their family's roots may be, the God they believe in, or the language they speak. So to me, when we talk about culture, it has so much to do, as I said in the beginning, with coexistence and with democracy. So when we talk about civic engagement in COVID times, it's specifically about that, about our culture of community, and about leaving no one behind, and about equal rights for everyone. And talking about equal rights, we can clearly state that the corona, that brings me to female leadership. I'm trying to interlink it all, but because it's really, there is a connection between the three, clearly state that corona had a great effect on gender equality. The virus is significantly increasing the burden of, for example, unpaid care, which is disproportionately carried, of course, by women. This, among other factors, means that women's employment is dropping faster than average. And also, mothers were forced to stay at home during the lockdown. Many of you probably who are mothers know that, while fathers were continuing to work because they earn more. So traditional gender roles were further entrenched. It hasn't been really a rollback to the 50s, I'd say, but the pandemic made visible the problems that Germany in any case has when it comes to gender equality, because gender equality is not really like completed in our society. And again, this also had an impact on the situation of engagement in civic engagement in Germany in general, because who are the ones who are volunteering? Who are the ones who are actively engaged in society? It's mainly women who are doing the unpaid work. And we see that the numbers of people doing volunteering went down. Because women also, one reason is because women are also too preoccupied with kids and household that there is no time left behind for being civically engaged. This is just one reason. We launched a study that examined civic engagement during Corona, and we really found out that the numbers of people actively engaged is going down due to many, many different reasons, but also it's carried by women mainly. So the corona virus has not changed in general the significance of civic engagement for our democratic society, but it has been an eye-opening for many of us. And this is something I always underline. I always try to really put in the heads of people. Civic engagement is part of our critical infrastructure and cannot be replaced by government services, no matter how good they are. We need people. We need people who are dedicated to volunteering, women who are strengthened in other spheres so that they have the time to get to be civically engaged. Government, of course, can take action to improve the framework conditions for volunteer work. That is what we do. I'm not my portfolio is civic engagement, not overcoming inequities in gender gaps. That is my colleague. But when you bring it together, we also try to always reach different target groups when we enhance and support civic engagement. That are women, that is people from immigrant families, that is people that are not like visible in society. And we try to really improve the circumstances and the framework for people to be actively engaged, because engagement is also a pillar of strengthening our democracy. And it also shows that people are giving a voice when they're maybe when they're not heard in other cases. So let me just give you a few examples on how we tackle like supporting civic engagement and the framework condition for volunteer work, also for women's volunteer work in Germany. We support a volunteer agency in each borough. During the first wave of the corona crisis, we helped these agencies to set up offices with neighborhood centers to coordinate volunteer work during the pandemic, because we realized that volunteer work is not on the, like, it's more in the neighborhoods. That is where we needed it. People were in need of others to help them. So that's why we did this volunteer agencies, like decentralized it a little bit. And we have a platform that is called Bürgeraktiv. We try to push it and to give it a boost for people to just check where they can find help if they need help. There's also the issue of loneliness. There is a volunteer-run hotline called Silbernetz that we supported, where people, also women and elderly people especially, were alone in the corona crisis, needed just to find a person on the other side of the phone to listen to their concerns. So this pandemic will leave its mark on our society in many different fields, like, as I said, also on female leadership in a sense. And yes, we faced bitter losses when people die. And with every association that has to give up its work because people have left, it can no longer host events, and it therefore has no income and cannot meet its obligations. We lose actually another bit of engagement culture that is so vibrant in Berlin, especially. Like, you see, like, every fourth person in Berlin is actively engaged, because every association stands for a cause and has its own mission. It's a loss for our society, which is animated by all the many small initiatives that make our society livable and worth loving. So this pandemic makes us acutely aware that we cannot just stand by and do nothing. Civil society as a whole is a career of culture and a powerful motor for a functioning society, indeed for a better society. It's needed, and it needs us. When we look back a couple of years from now, what will be the lessons we've learned? I hope we'll have learned not only to respect civil voluntary civic engagement, but also ask ourselves again and again, what can we do to make it even stronger? And then do it. And then also think about the role of women in society, that we just yesterday had the International Women's Day. So worldwide, we see that there is a lot to do to enhance, improve the situation of women in society, that holds it together, as I said, also when it comes to civic engagement. And last but not least, sorry for being too long, I was given 6 minutes. I don't know how much I spend right now, but last but not least, I hope that women all over the world are able to live freely and to go their own way. And for that, we need a committed, resilient, visible, and globally connected civil society as well, supported by volunteers who fight for justice with their hearts, with their souls, and with courage. I always try to do that on Women's Days and every day of the year. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. It's tradition on digital meetings to show, instead of clapping, to raise your hands to show your appreciation. So I'd like to ask everybody to show their appreciation now for that very, very useful and very moving input. I would like to come back and ask you so many questions, but I realize that you have so many things to juggle, especially also family and work and situation as many women out there are facing right now. So thank you very much for your time today. It was perfect timing, 6 minutes, and thank you so much for your useful input, and we will take it into our discussions. I've made lots of notes, so
sorry for leaving, and if any of you has any questions, just email me and I promise to answer your questions as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, and
take care, everybody. Have
luck.
Fun. Take care. Bye.
Bye. So thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is Dr. Claudia Lux. She is honorary professor at the Institute of Library and Information Science at the Humboldt University, and she is also the co-founder of the Qatar National Library in Doha, of which she is currently project director. I promise to keep all the introductions short, so Dr. Claudia Lux, please feel free to add anything that has not been included, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clark. It's very difficult to say anything here, as I think I have a life of over 50 years in fighting for women's rights, and also for gender equality. And in all my career, and as you could see from my from my life, that is a long career, especially in leading areas in library and information. But in all my studies already, there were moments of harassment as a woman, and there were also moments of support. And I think that most of you as women, you have encountered this, and you know this, and it's very normal to us. So what is so important for this moment of the pandemic is that in culture, there are a lot of leading women now. That was not the same like in the 70s or more years ago, or it's not the same in every country. But now here in Germany, there are quite a lot of women who are working in the responsible areas in culture. And when I just look here in Berlin, you have the Berliner Philharmoniker with Andrea Zitschmann, or you have who is the general manager of it, or you have the conductor of the Concert House Orchestra, Joanna Malwitz. And if you just see those people, they all have done something in the pandemic. They have started to create something new. They are supporting to put everything in a digitized way to the people. If you look for culture, who is using culture? The statistics from the last years, like from 2016, 2017, it shows very clearly that women are in all the fields. Only in film theater and film, there are men and women nearly equal. But in all the other parts, women are much more visiting concerts, they are going to the museum, they are enjoying art. So the pandemic is really affecting all of them, the women especially, that they cannot share anymore their interest, and they are not able to have something aside of what they normally have as a double burden, what we say in German, like the family, the caring, and their job, and then very often in a certain time of their life, they do not even have any free time at all, or they feel like this. So the pandemic puts another burden on them, what I just explained before. And the most important is in this moment, do we have enough men who are sharing with us this situation so that somebody in a leading position can follow up their work as a woman, and you have the backup at home, you have somebody from your family, you have your husband supporting you. I think this is a real important, and it has, and I would say it has changed very much in Germany. So for women in leadership, the role of the husband is important. It's not everything, but it's important, especially when they have children. When they don't have children, maybe it's a little bit different. However, what is another aspect, and I think Ms. Chibli has already said this, women are very often not working full-time. Due to the situation that they are caring for their children, they're doing part-time. And that at the end affects their situation at the end of the work life. And so it's also very important, I feel, to encourage women also to try to work full-time, or to be at least, because that is a very important, from my experience, it's a very important part of the career. We have possibilities now that you can work part-time and you also have a career. So in Germany, we have now some of these chances, but I'm quite sure that after the pandemic, as many women have started to skip their work due to the situation at home, it is not so easy to come back to this moment. That's why I feel it's really important to look at these, also at a lot of women who are models for us, who are doing exceptional work. And we can see, like, I can talk a lot about libraries. We have many library directors as women in academic libraries, in a lot of public libraries. And it was incredible what they have done during the pandemic, because they had to motivate all their staff in the new way to work with the public, to be safe in all the time. And I have there is a master thesis about United States, which is even more problematic, because it was not such a clear aspect that the state says you have to close down, you have to do this, you have to do that. In the United States, it was like a chaos. In the time with Trump, there was total chaos in all the communities, what to do. Are you allowed to close, or are you allowed to open? And what this this research made very clear, that the leadership of the libraries, mostly women, they had to write the opening plan, the plan how they do the service to the people, what is the step by step, and they had to lead their staff to these services. And I think that is a very interesting fact, how important women are in this moment, in this cultural infrastructure you have, to give something to the people, because everything else besides of libraries were still closed and were not able to use. So I think there is an important part of this in this pandemic, and you can see all the ideas on libraries, how with the digital libraries, the support there, the offers for as you know, I think reading for children, storytelling, and also all kind of crafts and other ideas. However, what I wanted to say, that for the development of women, it is very important that they get this support and that they have a kind of empowerment. You see, you need this empowerment with the society, and I feel that there is not yet enough empowerment from the society. Not even in Germany. I think we are on a good way. We have reached a lot during these last 50 years, but it's not enough. It's still not enough. I think we need more empowerment, especially in the time when we have a more diverse society, and especially in the diversity, we have another element where empowerment is very important. I don't know, I think I have my time done. I have a lot more to talk. Maybe you have to ask question later. But first of all, I just wanted to wrap up that from my point of view, culture is first of all a women's thing. They are not all in these leading positions, but is a very important users of culture, and that we have to see, we have to make sure that more of this is oriented and focused on the need of women, especially after the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Claudia Lux. There's several questions emerging from that, so we'll come back to those afterwards. However, we will press on with the next keynote speech, which is by Asma Al-Bakr, Secretary for Cultural Affairs from the Embassy of Qatar in Berlin, who also introduced the event today. So we've already heard from her, and now again, the floor is hers.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored to speak to you today on behalf of my own country, Qatar, the Divan, and most importantly, as a humble representative of women and mothers from the region. I think with every crisis, people adapt to find new solutions to overcome its effects and to protect themselves against its risks. As you all know, 2020 and even 2021 has been very challenging for all of us. But what has the last year meant for women in particular? I think to answer this question, I would like to share my experience both as a mother and a diplomat. Last year and moving to Berlin was very challenging, and we were facing tremendous pressures. We had to, the dates of departure, we had to adapt to not getting the right vaccine before we come. All these challenges has been pressured on us diplomats, and I think moreover on as a woman, also responsible for as a mother responsible for kids. But diplomacy couldn't be halted. We cannot stop. We cannot do we don't have the privilege of doing home offices all the time. We have to do that in the embassy and both in capital also. It's needless to say that the world is different now. We are no longer have the privilege of having a normal day. Our kids are not in school anymore. I think COVID-19 has made the impossible possible. Our normal is suspended, actually. Since we are gathered here on Women's Day, I'm proud to say that in the diplomatic corps, we have more than 100 women working in Qatar diplomatic corps. One major implication of Corona I think, is the psychological impact. The anxiety it has on intangible enemy that we fear it because we don't know it. We don't know if we are going to get back to normal or not. So as mothers, many of us was gifted to be mothers, and as parents, we have asked our children to be resilient. We asked them to be, we raised them to be self-motivated learners with homeschooling and everything. We aspired for them to be future leaders, but we have suspended their normal lives. We have limited their social interactions. As moving here to Berlin, we were, as I discussed before with Ms. Claudia, that leaving from Qatar, we live in a cosmopolitan city. We have different nationalities. Their teachers were from the UK, from Australia, from all over the world. So the culture difference was not as much as challenging as the lifestyle. We have completely different lifestyle, and I think it will be still a challenge even in the future. As a diplomat, one core component of being a diplomat is communication. What you can have is with being a diplomat is like you should communicate with goodwill, and you should put humanity and solidarity above all. Especially facing the same challenge as a pandemic. With the era of globalization, with the fall of borders and everything, this pandemic have set these things back. We have seen borders being closed, flights suspended. That's why it's become not only government solidarity was questioned, even people's solidarity. We see in the beginning of the early stage of the pandemic that people have fights on supermarkets and grocery stores, which is very take us back to a survival instinct. It is needless to say that I come from a small country. We import and we consume everything that is imported from outside. So that was the pandemic. We faced double challenges because we don't produce anything within. So being self-sufficient is a key here also. As I said, in politics, communication is key. So a successful diplomatic career is to understand our host country. We need to have a first-hand experience with the people, with the culture. We need to do face-to-face interaction to understand what we are. To understand the culture, we need like face-to-face interactions. It's almost impossible to do this remotely. In international meeting also, if we take it to a bigger level, international organizations tend to have like long speeches, but the outcomes and conclusions is not so much. That's why what the deals and the compromises happened in coffee breaks and on the corridors. We cannot have this on online meetings. So this made being a diplomat even much harder to do. Also on upside note, being optimistic here, online virtual meeting reduced the level of travel budgets, and the hybrid settings permit also the continuation of talks and negotiations. Looking forward, as the pandemic continues, we will probably bear witness of reduction of not only financial, but also human resources. Allocation on all hubs, not only in diplomatic corps. And we have to also navigate through this uncharted and unpredictable era. But all these challenges have also provided me and maybe most of my colleagues with opportunities and allowed for personal growth. As I said in the beginning, I'm still new in Berlin, and moving to a new country in the middle of worldwide pandemic has been a challenge. But the city is in lockdown. I couldn't see anything. The supermarket was my biggest cultural highlight. Also, despite that, I have very positive experience. I've been having some. We did have diplomatic negotiations and diplomatic meetings with different sectors, even if it was online, but it is feasible. Also, the thing that with the kids, with the optimizing working time in terms of online meetings, children have less face-to-face interaction with their teachers and classmates. And it falls upon us parents to fill this gap. It's really been very difficult for me, as I have to be at the embassy or the Divan all the time, and the kids have to deal by themselves at home. This is the biggest pitfall, I think, of the pandemic. But let's say I really appreciate the teachers and all the school systems, because they didn't have the patience to deal with the kids. I mean, it's really hard. This also brings me to the innovation that I personally think that will stay with us even post-corona. We have to improve our skills, the digitalization, and we have to do things differently now. It's also, I think that we can bring more globalization will help us. Digitalization of meetings. We couldn't have this meeting with so many different people in any venue, but now with Zoom meetings and Zoom calls, it's very, very feasible and easy. Also, I want to say that one of the biggest outcomes that we have learned from the pandemic is that we realize that we are social creatures. We cannot live alone. I mean, it's been very hard not to see each other in person. Also, we have to be resilient to whatever situation we are in. And also we have the privilege of self-reflect and to prioritize what is important to us. But coming from my previous job at I'm sorry if I took too long, but I need to say this. Coming from my previous job at the capital, I used to be the head of international aid, which is unfortunately all across the globe, hardship and struggles and poverty issues still in place. Our foreign aid policies was always aiming at the humanity and humanitarian work, not distinguishing between people and not distinguishing which people need aid. For example, after we successfully managed the pandemic and we took everything under control in the capital, we've sent medical assistance to different countries, different parts of the world, like Italy, Iraq, and Palestine. And even we provided vaccination to Palestinian refugees, which I'm so proud of doing. Also, on a final note, I would like to thank all our fellow men, because the men who helped us doing that, and see Zakaria and Jeremy smiling, my colleagues, our fathers, our partners, I think we can give them appreciation that they do help us in becoming a strong, independent women. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry if I took some time.
Thank you very much, Asma Al-Baka, for the very, very interesting speech. And we will move on, before we come to the questions, to our final keynote speaker. Welcome to the floor, Sana Afwaiz. She is founder and director of Womanpreneur. Womanpreneur is a Brussels-based organization which enables entrepreneurship and inclusion for women across Europe, the MENA region and abroad. And she also advises the United Nations and international organizations and businesses on women's empowerment, diversity, and gender policy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you, Zakaria, for the invitation. Where should I begin? I think it's good that you have emphasized that I have to speak only for 6 minutes, because I can speak for hours about this subject matter. But I'll start first to giving you a little bit of background about my thoughts about COVID, the impact on women entrepreneurs, and discussing, women working in cultural sector. So as Womanpreneur, we basically focus on supporting women through female entrepreneurship and job creation, focusing on the MENA region. Since 2016, we have trained 13,000 women So when COVID happened, it was a big shock for us because we work on the ground, we meet the women, we support them, and we focus on those who don't have opportunities. Because even in the region, we have a division between women. I mean, class, education, your location do impact about the type of support you access. So one thing we do at Womenpreneur is really focusing on providing the support on the ground. So when COVID happened, it was difficult to reach out to these women. It was difficult to have this communication and to really provide the support. And somehow we lost connections with them because in general, there are women who don't have access to internet, who don't have access to computers. And for those who don't know, half of the female population in the region is disconnected from internet. And we're talking about COVID. We're talking about the COVID that has shaped the job market. And actually now we're talking about, we're emphasizing on the tech opportunities. But women in the region, half of them are disconnected from internet. So this shows you how big the impact is of COVID on women. If we look at the statistics and the data provided by World Bank, by the United Nations, women in the region, about 1 million women are losing their jobs in the region. This is a huge number. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is impacting, more women. So we're talking about half of the region population that is marginalized, that is disconnected from having, internet, a simple 4G that you have here. Women who are losing every day their jobs, because you need to remember that 70% of female entrepreneurs in the region, they work in social sectors. Basically, they get 100K revenues per year, which makes them solo entrepreneurs. And by that what we call them survival entrepreneurs. So these are women who are actually trying just to survive. So the female entrepreneurship is not a new concept in the region because women by nature, they are entrepreneurs. We're talking about most of the countries who have like serious economic issues. So women, they have to survive. In order for them to survive, they become informal entrepreneurs. So by theory, we have women entrepreneurship in the region. But when it comes to the practice, we don't have structured female entrepreneurship. And it's getting worse now with the COVID. Because of the restrictions, because of the lockdown, we have still countries in the region that are still under strict lockdown, which means that you cannot leave your home. These women, they just cannot survive at all. And now they are in serious poverty. So the impact of COVID on women in the region is more negative than positive. Because I do hear, what technology is bringing for women, new possibilities. Yes, indeed, technology does bring new possibilities. In the job market today, there are so many demands on talent. But the issue is, although we have 65% of women studying STEAM, what we don't have is a structure, is the legislation, is the investment, is access to resources, is a serious dedication and a serious will to actually empower women and support women. And I think that to this day, and this is something I've said yesterday on the 8th of March, at Womenpreneur, we refuse to celebrate 8th of March because what I want, instead of celebrating one day, what I want is a serious investment throughout the year. The region, more than ever, I think it's the last warning now with the COVID. It is the last opportunity we have to actually put our investment in the right place. If we ignore women, if we marginalize women once again in post-COVID recovery, we are losing everything in the region. So this is just kind of my insight about the COVID and the way I see it. Now at Womenpreneur, like a lot of other organizations, COVID was like really a big hit for us. So I said to my team, we should not settle down. We should not stay for months just thinking what are we going to do. We should right away think of a solution. So just the following day, we had a huge meeting for the whole day, just to kind of adapt this new challenge. Because I think behind every challenge, there is an opportunity to grab. And I said, we need to innovate. This is the moment for us to actually create a new ways to communicate with our target group, a new project to put in place. This is the moment where women need us the most. So the first thing we did immediately is a series of online webinars and events. Now, I mentioned to you that we work on the ground. So we felt like we lost connection with our target group. When we started this series of events and webinars, what we've seen is that there was high engagement of women at night. At night, evening, women who read, who don't read, women who are mature entrepreneurs, a mix of different target group in the region. So we started doing kind of surveys, asking these women, engaging with them to understand. The women who were very kind of engaged, especially at night, were women who actually didn't have the device. So they had to wait for their husbands to come back home and to take the phone and to attend the event. And they were very hungry to learn. I'm talking about women who don't even, can write or read. The only thing is that because we've done webinars in Arabic and it was like their language, and they felt like, I am hungry to learn. I want to learn because I want also to survive and make sure that my children will survive as well. So we've seen like a new target group, emerging through these different webinars and online activities. And then we decided to, in collaboration with different partners, to do different incubation programs for different target group, for female entrepreneurs who have like mature businesses, for women who are going to do a shift in their, job careers, and a target group who actually are the informal entrepreneurs, the informal survivors. And the incubator was basically a set of practical activities focusing on what is needed for you to learn in post-COVID. And it was very impactful. We've organized more than 500 activities in 2020, and we have impacted 3,000 women. And actually this program was named by Council of Europe among 8 most innovative initiatives during COVID. And with this success, we decided that we need to keep this community alive. We need to keep, putting the right resources for these women. So we just launched Womenpreneur Digital Hub, which is basically the first digital space for women in the Arab world, for them to learn, to grow, and to connect. The platform is focusing for women to learn about financial literacy, entrepreneurship skills, and tech education. Whether you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you are a student, whether you want to shift, your career, change your job, you can learn everything here, and you will be connected with a set of experts across the globe. So this is a huge, huge achievement for us, and we have already 1,000 registrations in the platform when we just launched it a week ago. My last point would be about entrepreneurs themselves, women who are working in the cultural sector. So as I mentioned at the beginning, 70% of women entrepreneurs in the region, they work in social fields, which means basically fields that are very difficult to generate revenues from. So what we've noticed is that we did a study on the impact of COVID on women in 3 countries, Algeria, Egypt, and Lebanon. And some of the entrepreneurs we worked with are women who work in the culture sector. So basically what they've done is that, culture kind of sectors are closed down everywhere. And they were like, okay, how can I survive? So they decided to take credits, a loan from the bank. All right, all that's good. And those who succeeded to get the credit, the loans, what they've done, they've used their loans, the credits, in their family's business, and for the family needs, instead of using it for their business. So this is a serious issue that we still have to work on, and I think banks and financial institutions need to recognize. We need to have alternative services and products in the financial sector to make sure that female entrepreneurs are sustained. We need to have a financial literacy seriously in the region, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't make the difference between managing the finances of their businesses and differentiating that with the finances, their personal finances. Having accounting every month, doing the accounting every month, make sure that you get your salary from your business. We need to restructure the financial knowledge of women in the region. And this is a serious problem that we've noticed. And this is why we've opened a program on financial literacy, women and money, where we're going to teach female entrepreneurs, including those working in cultural field, on how to manage their money in times of crisis. with no further ado, I think there is so much we can do together. What's important, and I really thank you for having me in this event. I think we all agree that women empowerment is a necessity. Investing in women should be an obligation. And I think collaborating all together, we could achieve that.
Thank you very much. I would like to suggest to everybody now that we go to a Galerieansicht, so gallery view, so that we can all be seen on the screen. And I've not had any questions as yet from the audience, but it'd be very great if people were interested. Now I see many people don't have their camera on. I was wondering if we stopped the recording, maybe some people would like to join with camera, because I see that there's an awful lot of people who I cannot see their looks.
Yes, and I totally support this, and I agree. And I just would like to add that we also have to ask to be the second half of the heaven or so that it means that we really get the jobs are not only focused on men. I just heard today that there is a university in the Netherlands who decided to have, because they had only a very few women professors there, they decided in the next time, the next 70 places in professorship, they are going to give to women only. I think that is fantastic if you have these models, and you just have to ask even that in the ministries, in the other parts. I also look to Qatar. I think you could say the same, Asma. They do a lot for women. However, you can still do more, especially for the top the top positions. And it should be more equal. There should be the same numbers of women in these positions than men. And I think we have to fight for this.
Thank you very much. Asma Al-Bakar, would you like to add something on this question of networks of solidarity between women?
Being as a woman and working with different age groups, coming from a region that is, we consider Qatar as a young country. We our heritage and culture is very young. We have a young leader, and most of the positions are being held by young people. With that being said, we have the mindset of even a younger generation who is asking for more. Before, let me be really frank and honest with you. When I decided that I want to be a diplomat, my father said, "How can you become a diplomat? How would you travel? Who will accept that you are traveling all over the world, and the man will stay and watch the children?" I said, "Yeah, I will try." And then this has happened to me and to the other 100 girls, women that are on the diplomatic corps. And then all of a sudden, I am a diplomat working here in Berlin. There are a lot of number of diplomats who are working, lady diplomats who are working abroad. We have 3 lady ambassadors. We have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the spokesman. She's a lady also. There's changes, and we have to encourage the men who are supporting these changes, and also that they are encouraging us to move to new fields. And also, as women, we need to inspire or encourage other women to do the same. You'll be nervous and hesitant at the beginning if you try something new, but then if you try it, then it will be okay. Even I teach this to my kids, you need to do the first steps, then it will be easier for you. Even with the Minister spokesman. At the beginning, people were like evaluating being a lady in a spokesman position as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. People would say they will look at you and evaluate you. And I think women are very capable of being in leadership positions.
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of the Q&A session, and now I would like to open for members of the audience also to make statements which can or cannot be linked to a question. They are to further our discussion, to build on what you have just heard. We had one I would like to give the floor to Gulnaz Akhtar.
Thank you very much. But I just want to add here, thank you a lot for holding this important webinar to Arabic cultural Divan. And we have this moment with us here. We have listened our senior role models. We have listened the stories from her, and it provokes to us. This is very good for us. We have this opportunity, and I want to say, as they have been shared their experiences with us, they are on the fabulous posts, all these women, because they are very capable. So here we also see in our now current environment, those countries led by women seem to be particularly successful in fighting the coronavirus, like Germany, led by women, has had a far lower death rate than the other countries, like in comparison. And also Prime Minister Jacinda, New Zealand, has been praised for her leadership style during the pandemic, especially. And those countries have women leadership. They are running successfully, but here I want to add with the male counterparts, because without their help, we can't run all these successful things. Their support is very necessary for me, for all of us, for success in the life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that very valuable contribution, and also making the international comparison. And I think also that we would like to do everything together with the men in mutual respect. And we're very, very happy if they agree to share the power that they have had for centuries with us on a very equal basis. I think we're ready for the challenge.
Because it's very necessary in future as well.
Yes, I think so. We're already, many people here today are already far on the way to doing that.
Yeah.
Also very good. So we have a comment. Thank you very much for that input. We have a question to everyone. Do you think that the liberalism policy is guilty of placing women in their economic and social situation during the corona crisis? Do you think that liberal policies are guilty of placing women in their economic and social situation during the corona crisis? Suzanne Katmawi. So yes, thank you very much for that question. And Sana, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to answer the question in details because it will take us 4 hours. But I think maybe to just make it brief, I think this question reminds me of a good article that I would advise everyone to read of Yuval Harari. It was an article he published after, during COVID, basically calling world leaders to re-examine and take a look on not only our health system, but also our economic, our political and social systems. And I think more than ever, there are different kind of systems, like on political level, on economic level, on social level, that explain why women are in certain places today, why we haven't yet achieved full rights for women in different countries. And I think it's the time to actually rethink about it and look at it. Liberalism is one of them, probably yes, probably not. the question is how liberalism is taking different shifts in different countries. I think it's you need to look at it depending on different condition and different regions and different environments. Like for instance, I will just give you an example here in Belgium. One thing that we've noticed in Belgium, I mean, Belgium is quite, I would say, democratic country with quite interesting achievements when it comes to women's rights. What happened before COVID is that the government was discussing a law project to allow women to basically have the right of abortion beyond 12 weeks. Because in Belgium, if a woman ends up with, unwanted pregnancy, she has only 12 weeks to abort. If she actually exceeds that, it's illegal, which means that she has to go somewhere else in Europe in order for her to have the abortion. So they were discussing this project, law project, to allow women to have 18 months right to actually abort. Then COVID happened, and there was no discussion about that. And then thanks to the feminists and activists, they wanted to relook at this law, because a lot of women during COVID had to travel to different countries, and because of the restriction of COVID, they end up in quite difficult situations. And basically a part of the government, and for those who know Belgium, it's a very small country, but very complicated government. We have different kind of, political parties kind of, governing. And one extreme right party refused to actually this law. And they said, if you allow women to have the right of 18 months, we're going to basically, we will not govern. And that would create an issue, because in Belgium, every 5 years, we have no government. And somehow we survived. And this shows that, I mean, it's few weeks for women to have this right. But nevertheless, there is still this kind of view of, political view on where the line should stand for women. So that's the example of Belgium, let alone different countries. I'm not going to give like several examples, but I think probably now more than ever, we need to relook at our economic, political, and social systems.
Thank you very much for that input. We have another input from Jeremiah Kittner.
Thank you, Rachel. Actually, I have a question to all the panelists. First of all, I would like to thank all of them for their very interesting, because personal input. I would like to ask, if you grow up, it's not so much if you're a female or male, just in general. And as Asma said, that there may be challenges even from the own family requesting things, but I also learned from my own experience that it makes you even stronger. And sometimes if someone is really questioning your heart, you know that you're on the right path. But I would like to ask the panelists, what has helped them the most in their personal careers, especially in the young ages, like maybe a good mentor or a good idol, or just reaching out and asking the right question? That's my question to you, please.
Would you like to start, Claudia?
Yes, happy to start with this. I don't know why, but from the time I was small, I always were fighting against anything what was in my way. So I always tried. If I saw that something was not allowed, I tried to convince my parents as much as I could, and I could do this over years until I got what I wanted. So this, I think, was something which helped me in all the time when there was somebody who was trying to stop me. Like, I can tell you, even when I started to apply for a study in China, I have studied Chinese, maybe you know, and when I studied in China, so there were one professor who said, I don't think that women should go there. Yeah. So something like this, as you know, in this time. And then when I was in one of the positions in a very big library, I was looking for a new position there, and then there was a person in this in this moment, when they asked me about my work and my position, and he said, "Oh, you have so much to do with your children, so I don't think you have enough energy to concentrate on your job." And you see, these are things, and you have to find spontaneously something against it. So I immediately answered, "Oh, during the job, when I'm at home, I'm always thinking of the job. It's just the other way around." So you always had to try to fight this, and but to have something like make a joke out of it. If you are too serious, they put you in a corner. But if you have this smile and the yeah, something like a joke or so, people are supporting you. So it's something you have to make sure that you go through these areas. But the most of all is energy is coming from yourself and from your education. I think what Asma said before, education for women is a key. And the more educated you are, the more possibilities you had, the more you support you got your education. It's not one person, it's a whole support through education, through knowledge, and the reading you have done as a young person. Because with reading, you can also develop a lot of ideas and a lot of power to educate yourself or to develop yourself. But I think one thing is very important. You have to be stubborn. You have to fight for what you want. You have not to stop, and you have to make sure that nobody can stop you. And that is what I think it was already said today. Nobody can stop us when we really want it. And even if you have maybe up and downs, you have to go through this and look for the future you want to go. That what you really want to achieve. And that is something which comes from your inside, and it's laid down by the education you got.
Thank you very much. Asma Al-Kbar.
From my experience, I'm not as experienced as Ms. Dr. Claudia, but coming from a very conservative society and region, I think what happened is a top to bottom change, because from the top we have our role model growing up was Sheikha Moza, who's the wife of the Amir. She encouraged women. She did all the stubbornness that Ms. Claudia said. She broke the norm first for us, and then it was much easier for us to go and do whatever we want. Like it happened from the top. This is from my case, and then all the things that below that followed, because they had foreseen the future that it can't be happening. You cannot grow a country, and you cannot have a developed country without women.
Thank you very much. And Sana?
Thank you so much. Very inspiring, both of you. For me, there are two people who actually inspired me to maybe take the road that I'm taking today. The first one is my mother, and I know it's a cliche because we hear that a lot, but for me, it's really my mother, because I remember when I was very young, she told me that key of your freedom is your education. And again, I think Claudia and Asma, we all agree on this. I come from a big family. For those who know Moroccan families, Zakaria would agree, we come from big families. And therefore, our household was always busy. There were a lot of people. And I was a very curious person. So I couldn't really be, in my space at home because there are a lot of people. So I decided to go all the time. When I have like free time, I go to the library. And there, a librarian was basically someone important in my life, because he would give me every week a book to read. And when I was 12, he decided to give me Charles Darwin's book on the theory of evolution. And then he gave me books about feminism, about Fatima al-Bernisi. For those who don't know, she is the Islamic feminist in the region. And that has shaped my thoughts, my perspectives, And the most important lesson is that actually I have new possibilities and I have thousands of opportunities out there, and that I have to free myself from an environment that wants to put me in a cage. And to this day, whenever I go to Morocco, I meet this librarian and we have, a coffee or tea, and we discuss important topics about politics, economy, biology, tech. And I think these two people have shaped my life.
Thank you very much.
I would really love to meet your librarian one day. I would really love to do that.
Well, this forum is all about networking. And one of the things I will take away from today, apart from these lovely 3 stories, which came in answer to Jeremiah's question, which are very, very heartwarming and inspiring, is that the idea that we should stay in touch, we should continue the discussion, and we should network with one another, whether it is via the Womanpreneur Digital Hub, which was born out of the crisis, and other such digital initiatives, which do enable at least those among us who have the good fortune to be digitally connected, to stay in touch with one another and build on networks, so that we could perhaps also allow the other women who are not yet in touch to get digitally connected, and perhaps also put pressure in the right place to make sure that there is the inequality, which is one side of the corona crisis, it doesn't become entrenched, but just becomes a phase, and we can manage to turn it around and take the positive advantages out of this, what we've learned. And I would just like to ask our panel members perhaps to give one short statement in answer to the following question to finish. And this is the following: let us imagine it is the future and the pandemic is over. What will you say that we have learned about women, about women's strength, and about their potential as leaders from this crisis? What will we say in the future when we look back? What did we learn? Claudia, would you like to start?
Yeah, for sure. If you look at all the hospitals where women especially are the caring about the people, they have to be so strong, and there was always the question, this is something, it's a man world because you need so much power for it, but these people, when they care about this COVID-19 patients, they need this strength. They are very strong to help them. And what I think is so important is that we make sure that this group of women are more supported, that they are better paid, and that they got more acknowledgement than they ever got during the pandemic, because it's such an important job they do. And out of this is, I think, what Sana also has discussed. In all these social activities where women are supporting the society, the wages are very low, and it cannot stay like this. And I think what we need to work for it. We need to discuss it. It will not come alone, but it's very important. Like what I said, like in culture, many people in culture, they also work in restaurants and they don't have a job anymore. It's not a real job. It's just like a day job, or and there is a lot where we can support women to come into more regular work and be better paid. I think that's the most important, because it's also acknowledgement of women.
Thank you very much. Sana?
For me, 2 things: collaboration and invention. And I've been inspired by these 2 examples by animals themselves. I am someone who's really addicted to biology. I read a lot of books on biology. And there is a biologist, his name is Robert Sapolsky, for those who don't know. He wrote a book called Behave, and basically looking at the morality of animals to understand the morality of humans. And why did I mention animals? I don't know if you know titi monkeys. There are the small monkeys. They are beautiful, but what's important about them is that they work in collaboration. There is no hierarchy, no female or male is taking the leadership. Everyone is equal. They work together. They stay in group until they feed their children. And I think this is what we need more than ever because of COVID. As you know, our history, the history of humans have been, shaped by violence, by war, by discrimination, by racism. And I think what I would like to see post-COVID is a world where we actually are a global village, where we collaborate, where we work together, where it doesn't matter if you are women and men, a black, white, a Muslim, a Christian, it doesn't matter where you come from. What's matter is that you are human, we collaborate together. And the second example would be dolphins. Why? Because they are the smartest animal in the world, and because they every time they invent. And also orangutans, they are innovative animals. They try to see solution when there is a problem. And I think this should shape our thinking as well. COVID, yes, it is a challenge, but behind COVID, there is an opportunity. If orangutans, they manage to break nuts by stones, I think we can manage breaking COVID into opportunities.
Thank you very much for those inspiring words. And Asma Al-Bakr, I would like to pass on the words and also for the closing words as well. Thank you.
After COVID, I think what we should take off the corona is that our system, school system, work system, our careers should be more resilient, because the system that we have in place now, it's not very, we could see that with workplaces shutting down, with layoffs and children out of school. This doesn't help with the adaptability. If we have another crisis, everything cannot shut down again. I think what we should learn is that to make a system that is more resilient for not all the women, but for all humanity, actually, for the sake of our children, our future, is that we build that something that is adapted, could adapt to any situation. I think with the corona, as a personal experience, I couldn't believe that I could be this, can do so much in such little time. That means that women are capable of doing anything, but our system needs to be more resilient.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the very moving speeches and for the inspirational sharing of thoughts. And I would like to pass on to Jeremias Kettner to close. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. And thanks again to the panelists. I think what makes it always valuable is these personal experience, and everything else you can read, you can Google, but what I can't get anywhere else is like your personal experiences. So I would like to personally thank all of the 4 panelists. I've learned a lot. I hope that our audience learned a lot. And I would just like to mention that please feel free to always contact us as the Arabic Cultural House if you have event ideas, if you have questions to our panelists. We are a platform model. That means we are working together with all of you. So again, if you have a topic or you would like to do and cooperate with us, please feel free to reach out to us. And that's all for the moment. I wish you all a very good afternoon and a quiet night, and hope you enjoy it with kids or without kids. All the best.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe, do you want us to take a group virtual picture so that we keep it as a souvenir? No?
Of course. Thank you. I almost forgot. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I think that Aishwari is moderating that. If we can all take our brightest smile for a second. And so I say 3, 2, 1. All right. Perfect. And we also maybe a last note, we shared a questionnaire. Please feel free to fill it out and give us your input, your feedback about today's event. Have a nice evening, guys.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.